Ricciardo obviously qualified P12 and finished the race there as well, I believe. Just didn't really make up any places. There wasn't much to be found strategy-wise. And I think that the team felt that he had done very well on the hards. But he also had discussed with, he had a little interview beforehand where he talked about the car itself and that the McLaren has a very, very specific window in which it works. And Lando, with his experience at the team and with the development of the car, knows where that window is. And this can be expanded on a little bit by looking at the way that Ricciardo drove the Renault when he was there and the way that he drives the McLaren now compared to Norris. So it seems that Ricciardo, we all know that he's last of the late breakers. He has this style where he continues to brake fairly significantly going through a corner whilst putting lock on the steering wheel, which has obviously worked in previous cars, especially in that Red Bull. It seemed to be particularly favourable, especially I don't know if it's exactly the case now. I suppose it must be something to do with their design, but the Red Bull has always been quite pointy, and so he was able to get that rotation whilst braking. Whereas most drivers trail brake, where they brake hard and then they release the brake going through the corner, whereas Ricciardo seems to hold it down that little bit longer. It appears that just doesn't really work in this McLaren. It seems to cause a lot of understeer for him. And you can see when you compare the way that Ricciardo was braking in the Renault last year compared to where Norris is braking. Norris is braking a lot earlier and basically carrying more speed through the corners, whereas Ricciardo wants to brake a lot later and then try and brake more through the corners and then get on the power in a slightly different manner. Clearly, he's struggling with that. Clearly, he just hasn't found the way to make that work, and he needs to adapt to the car, which is ultimately what great drivers do. They don't say, well, this is my driving style, deal with it. They need to be able to adapt to the needs of the car, and Ricciardo is still doing that. I'm not sort of, all hope is lost. Ricciardo's, he's never going to get back there. I don't feel that way at all. I think that it must be very frustrating for him, but I still have hope. I'm a little disappointed by the results, but I'm sure he is, and I'm sure that they're working hard to keep getting him familiar with that car. So fingers crossed that things will get improved. How do you feel about the Ricciardo situation? Are you feeling optimistic as well, or?
It's a strange one because in one hand, I look at McLaren as a team and Lando Norris is doing incredibly well. And I rate Daniel Ricciardo as a very, very successful, a very highly rated driver. So when I put those two together, I imagine Daniel being absolutely brilliant in the McLaren. I watched that interview as well, and it was really good to listen to him talk about the difficulties he's facing. Obviously, we've had 5 races now. Carlos Sainz is doing quite well in the Ferrari. Sergio Perez is picking up pace in the Red Bull, especially on Sundays. And Ricciardo is just kind of stuck in this qualifying behind. Actually, to be fair, he's out-qualified Lando a couple of times, but it's just gone backwards in the race because of that driving style. Is all hope lost? Absolutely not. We can see that the car's there, and like you said, all great drivers just need to change their driving style ever so slightly to maximise the potential of that car. And I think it's just going to take longer than anyone expected. I think we all saw Daniel go into the McLaren and thought, this is going to be incredible. This is going to be a top-tier driver. It's going to be podiums every other weekend.
On paper, it's an absolutely unbelievable combination of drivers.
And I think, especially over the winter break, there was a lot of hype. And of course there would have been. It's Daniel Ricciardo going into McLaren next to Lando Norris, this up-and-coming team, but they've definitely improved so much over the last 5 or 6 years. This could be absolutely magical. And it will be magical, but it might just be after the mid-season break. It might be after the summer break, when he's had more time to get used to the car and just slightly change his driving style. I'm a little bit, not disappointed. I'm just sad that it hasn't been straight away because I wanted it to be incredible to begin with. And look what Norris has achieved in that car and where he's sat in the championship standings at the moment. Now, if we had Daniel a couple of places behind him or matching that, that is going to be an absolute power couple right there in that McLaren. We've just got to give it time. All hope is not lost. I'm just a little bit gutted that it hasn't happened yet.